So just as we were really getting on track and beginning to do well, COVID happened. So it was super frustrating. But then, we did the scaling up course during COVID. And then from there, we grew a lot and things in Dubai and hospitality really went into a phenomenal direction that was not foreseeable. During the pandemic, we really struggled because we supply furniture to hotels and restaurants. And during the pandemic, there was no business. So it was actually a very scary time. Everyone felt like no one knew what was going to happen, what was going on. And, the blessing that came out of that is that for the first time since we started the company that we worked on the business. So that's when we did this. We decided, let's do the scaling up course since we have nothing else to do anyways. So you might as well learn something. It was very interesting because it allowed us to look at things more from an outside angle. Shortly after we did the scaling up course, we also started working with a business coach. So scaling up, I think, gave us a really great overall strategic insight. And then we worked with our business coach to actually implement the overall strategy. And we've been doing that over the last years. During the pandemic, we had 2 projects that managed to help us sort of survive that time. Everything else was either cancelled or put on hold. The good thing is because we're based in Dubai was one of the first places in the world that started opening up just as the rest of the world was clamping down. So the good thing is that hospitality in the UAE came back on track very quickly. What was not really foreseeable is that it came back stronger than before the pandemic. So during the pandemic, a lot of people from all over the world decided to move to the UAE for different reasons, and that popularity has not diminished. If anything, Dubai has become an even more popular place to move to. So we have a lot of things that are going on within the UAE, new developments, refurbishments, but then also Saudi Arabia and other parts in the region. And the difference is that when we did scaling up, we were only doing distribution. And since then, we've also gone into manufacturing because this part of the world is very different. A lot of the projects here and a lot of designers here want everything done custom. And previously, as distributors, we were unable to cater to that need. And when we did, we were getting it from other local joineries. That means that we were not competitive in our pricing and we couldn't control quality and lead time. The manufacturing part of the business has grown a lot over the last 2 years. We've now to date done more than 1,000 projects since we did our first commercial project in 2015. So I'm very happy with the pace that we've been growing. And obviously from doing scaling up, there are just so many things that we've implemented from big to small. So there's a lot of value we've gotten out of it. The primary benefit we've had from the Growth Institute is really the approach to learning and also accountability, as well as just learning how to look at the big picture and thinking out of the box. If I just put it in a very practical sense, a lot of the methodology from scaling up that was taught by the Growth Institute, a lot of things we implemented immediately. So the first thing that we did was the daily huddles. Before that, we didn't have this. And the funny thing is that when we started the daily huddles, there were some people in the team that felt that this was us controlling and micromanaging them, when in fact the daily huddles, it's the opposite of that, right? The whole point of doing the huddle is to understand, okay, what are your priorities for the day? Where are you stuck? And then you go and work independently. So this was very telling for us to basically eliminate people that were no longer the right match. And another thing that we learned, one of the first questions that was asked was, would you enthusiastically rehire everyone again? And the answer to us was so clear, whom we would hire again and whom we wouldn't hire again. Made us take a lot of drastic decisions during COVID time. In the simplest words, we wanted to learn how to scale our business. Where do we start? And what was great about Growth Institute is that it offered simple steps. Because as a business owner, when you're so busy in your business, sometimes you forget or you don't realize, okay, what do I actually need to do? A framework into, okay, where do we start? And also taught us the habits and disciplines, and also understand, okay, what do we want to accomplish by next year, in 3 years, in 5 years? And thinking a bit long-term rather than just being so caught up in the day-to-day operations, which is more of what we were previously doing. Subscribing to this, we started learning how to think big. part of it that was sales related. So since then, we've grown more than 30% year on year. So that's obviously an amazing outcome. And then in terms of labor efficiency, that has gone up as well. And also just overall reporting and implementing KPIs, as simple as it sounds. Certain departments, we didn't have clear KPIs prior to scaling up. So that's something that we really worked on. And another part, which is not necessarily numerical, but something that we've invested a lot in, is culture. So one of the calls, what was discussed is, why do you have a party to bid farewell to someone when you should be celebrating onboarding them? So that is one of the, it's a small difference that we made, but now when we hire someone, before they start work, we already, or on the first day at work, we have a welcome card waiting for them, branded notebooks, everything is nicely prepared, and usually we have either have a small gift for them or send a cake, just something to show, hey, we're excited to have you on board. And that has already made the difference to their first day at work. We've also done a lot of work with a culture coach in terms of redefining our company values and how do we live by those values. People who work with us are genuinely happy to be in the workplace. So that's something that's very important to my partner and me, is that people need to be happy to come to work, right? I mean, money is important, but it's not all about the money. So in the few instances where we've had creating a toxic environment, even though their work performance was not bad, it was quite decent, we just decided, okay, these people have to go. There's no space for this toxic element, because it's creating a workplace that causes unhappiness for others. And that's not how we want to identify ourselves. So culture is one thing. And then also one thing that we've really been working on in the sales team is gamifying the business, making each small win a celebration. And again, all of these things that I've just mentioned, all of them are part of what the Growth Institute teaches people. It's nice to see, because usually a lot of courses tend to be very abstract and very theoretical. But what was beneficial for us was that there were a lot of small practical changes, right? Changes that you can immediately, some changes longer, but other changes we could do same day. It's surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So the great thing when we had the cohorts from scaling up, even though there were people of different backgrounds, different interests, different businesses, different issues, everyone was very different from each other, but obviously everyone was there for the same purpose and reason, and that was to learn. Everyone had different takeaways. For me as an entrepreneur, surrounding myself with like-minded people it's an inspiration, and it's also a way of you then being held a bit more accountable for your actions, because when you surround yourself with other business owners and you talk about, okay, by next year I want to achieve X growth, or whatever it is that your goals are, you would feel very stupid if by next year you haven't accomplished what you set out to do. Okay, sometimes plans change and sometimes priorities change, but there has to be some sort of progression and growth. And if you don't surround yourself with people that have that mentality or that drive, then it's very easy to get comfortable, and being very comfortable is not gonna get you much further where you need to go. I think a lot of it comes down, again, maybe it sounds very basic, but comes down to having the right people in the right seats, which, it's one of the first learnings, and as simple as it sounds, I think it's quite difficult to get that right. So we, over the last years since we started the program, we've managed to put together a very good team of people. Some departments still need improvement, but overall the leadership team that we've put together, so before Growth Institute and before we did this, it was just me and my business partner. There was no other leadership team. And in the last 2 years is really for the first time that we started adding mid-level management, but we have amazing people in those roles, and it's made all the difference, because now the way that we spend our time as business owners is we're really focused on growing the business, and we're no longer operationally involved in the day-to-day. Okay, of course we still have an oversight, but we now have so much more time to focus on areas that other people in the company are unable to focus on. This is really something that I find that scaling up has been very, very useful for, in terms of understanding, okay, where do we want to go as a company? What do we need to get there? And then just having the right people doing these things. First of all, it taught us that having a business coach is critical to performance. So prior to doing scaling up, we never considered it because it just was not an expense that we thought of having. But since then, it's something that we have been doing, and we don't see it as an expense, we see it as an investment. So I think first of all, it changed our mentality about coaching in general. And what was amazing is that when we had calls with a coach, first of all, it taught us how to prepare the material that we wanted to feedback on. And then the feedback that we would get would be very high level feedback, but really quite incredible because the coach would come up with feedback or perspectives that we had previously not considered. So it's very much giving you an outside perspective. And when you're so caught up in the day-to-day operations, you know, you have this tunnel vision, you're not seeing things from different perspectives. So I think that was really quite eye-opening. And as I mentioned before, that we took the material from scaling up and then we worked on that with our business coach, and all the material that was offered as well, all the different videos, I found extremely helpful as well. Like for example, there was that section with Alan Mills on managing cash flow. So one of the biggest takeaways that we had from the course was the power of one. You know, essentially, people think that if you increase, let's say you increase your revenue, let's say you increase it by 50%, people think that that's so amazing. But if you actually look at it, it's increasing the margin or decreasing your cost, which therefore increases your margin. That drives growth much more than increasing revenue. So just understanding those numbers, and that it was mind-blowing to see the different levers and how 1% affects everything. So again, that's when we share that with our sales team. So again, this is a small thing that has made a big difference. We did this exercise several times with our sales team for them to learn and realize that don't focus on, I mean, of course, we want them to increase their overall revenue, but focus on increasing your margins. So because otherwise you have to work so much harder for that to have the same effect than if, you know, because they used to give out discounts like candy. But since we did this exercise, they stopped giving such big discounts. So for example, they would, if a client would say, oh, I need a discount, they would immediately say, okay, here's a 10% discount. And when they saw how much it would affect the numbers, that's when they decided, okay, you know what, we're going to start with maybe 2 or 3% and then go from there rather than immediately giving 10%, because usually you don't end up only doing one negotiation round, right? You have maybe 1, 2, 3 negotiation rounds. So if you start at 10%, where do you end up? If you start at 2 or 3%, the outcome is quite different. %. I mean, even just looking at it at a very basic level. So everything from little day-to-day things to big picture strategy. I don't even know how to put a value on that. I can't tell you, I can't give you a number, but it was definitely, I would probably call it more than 100x, right? It's not even a question. A friend of ours in Dubai, who I think ended up becoming a certified scaling up coach, he told us, he said, okay guys, if you want to grow your business, you have to read Scaling Up, you have to follow the steps, and it's very simple. And he explained a very simple, straightforward manner. He said, you have to do this. Then when I saw the email, and since it was COVID, I just thought, okay, let's do this. Hopefully we can learn something out of it. Timing had something to do with it, but also for what you're getting, the value for money part is a bit of a no-brainer, because it's not a mega big ticket expense like other programs out there where it ends up becoming a big debate. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? So it was also I feel that the fees are very much, okay, at the worst case, we'll learn something. And that had something to do with it. And I think the key factor was just the implementation part of it. Is that from day one, you take away things that you can implement in your business. Day one. It's not that you have to finish the whole course before you can start seeing results. I think that was really something that motivated us the most.
Departments are better than others. Some KPIs are very easy to do. Some KPIs are not as easy to do. But what we learned over the last years is that majority of the KPIs come very easy as long as you have proper process in place, because then you realize what is actually the most critical function of the particular position. So we never had a challenge, for example, defining KPIs for sales team, right? It's very, very easy, straightforward. It was a number, it was meeting targets, was gross profit targets. This was very, very easy to do for us, but we always struggled with the back office. So now we just defined very basic functions for each back office person that indicates if they have something to do or they don't have anything to do. So right now, whenever they log into a system, they can see on the dashboard if there's anything in the footer or if it's in the green. We also have like a big TV in the office where we have a presentation running, which includes the KPIs for each and every department, including ourselves, so including management, and they're also colored from green to red, so everybody can see how each department is performing. This was a very transformative change because it gave us so much structure and organization for our business that it far outweighs the investment that we had to take compared to this. I really truly think there were many things that happened during that year, but if it wouldn't have been for COVID, if it wouldn't have been for the program, I don't think able to build an organization like we have now in such a short time. Before we were running a pirate ship, and now I would say we're not 100% there yet, but I think the progress that we've made in that short time is quite impressive.
We still have our pirate ship moments every now and then, but for the most part, it's a completely different structure to what it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. The processes we've put into place, just the way that the company has been structured, just the overall operations as a business is completely different. And the good thing is that everyone in the team who's with us understands what needs to be done.